Good evening. I would like to call to order the City of West Bend Licensing Board for April 5th at 6:25. Note that we do have a quorum. We have 7 items on this agenda, with the first being approval of the Licensing Board, the regular meeting minutes of March 15th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been motioned second. Any comments or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to agenda items for consideration. First, number 3, Class B beer / Class C wine license for Town Place Suites, West Bend, 175 East Water Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been motioned second. Any comments on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. Number 4, Class B beer / 6-month West Bend Athletic Association Doc Gonring Complex, 2500 Country Creek Circle, April 19th, 2021 through October 19th of 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been motioned second. Any comments on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to 5, original Class B combination license for the Cheese Wedge LLC. The Wedge 53095 Uncorked, 408 South Main Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been motioned second. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Number 6, original Class B combination license for B&K Sal Properties LLC at 1539 North Main Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been motioned second. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Excuse me. And number 7, original Class B combination license for 110 Wisconsin Street LLC, 110 Wisconsin Street, 110 Wisconsin Street.
If I could just make a comment
Go
on
ahead.
this one. The police department had not sent a recommendation yet because the license holder in this was an individual who we had a meeting with and is also on the agenda regarding the Inferno. If that matter is satisfactorily resolved with the council, then we have no objection to that license. So I have no objection to approving that through license, but I would like that brought up at council after we take up the Inferno issue.
Sounds good. Thank you. So we're looking at a motion for that item.
I would just like to table this license till the
Just table it.
19th of April.
Okay.
Motion to table to the 19th of April.
Second.
Sounds good. It's been motioned to table. Any other discussion or questions for Chief? Chief, do you have any?
I don't have
comments on
anything. I don't know if that, if you have any, if the owner's here, if he has any comment regarding that.
Sure. Jeremy, I know who you are, but if you could state your name and address for us.
Yeah, my name is Jeremy Hahn, 133 North 6th Avenue in West Bend. I know this is unrelated to the Inferno. I know I met with the chief and we discussed that. The sale of the building, we're closing on the 15th, is contingent on approval of the liquor license. So if we table it, it would prevent the sale from going through. So I just wanted to see if there's any way we could discuss that tonight. I'm willing to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
And so again, whatever is made with the licensing board is just a recommendation to the council.
Yep.
So the council can continue to talk about this item and decide what we want to do. So does anybody want to change that table motion?
No. I would just prefer to leave it, and if council wants to take it up, they can.
Okay. Sounds good. That's been motion seconded to table to, you said the 19th stuff?
That's correct.
Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Sounds great. So that'll carry over to the Common Council. And then number 8, original Class B combination license for Mavens on Main LLC, Mavens on Main, 241 North Main Street. And Chief, you said that you didn't quite get all the information that you needed, so you're recommending table this one as well?
Yes, I am recommending that. That's the best. We did not get all the information we needed to make a recommendation. So until we get that information, both from the applicant and also from issues with the State Department of Revenue, I would like that to be tabled.
Okay. Sounds good. If I can have that motion.
Motion to table to April 19th.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor of tabling, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Having no further business for the licensing board, I adjourn by the call of the chair.
I would like to call the Board of Public Works. We have 5 items on the agenda. Item number 1 is approval of the minutes from March 15, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or changes? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 2, permission to advertise contract 2104 sidewalk removal, repair, or installation at various locations. Good evening, Max.
Good evening, thank you. This is an item for our annual sidewalk repair contract. Every year we have a budget line item for sidewalk repairs throughout the city. And we do removal, replacement of deteriorated or offset sidewalk in response to requests or complaints that we receive over the month, and trip and fall reports or staff inspections. We have finalized the list of location, and this will include the sidewalk along Villa Park Drive, just north of Washington Street, that we had to close over the winter because of ground settlement. So we will reconstruct that sidewalk, bring it closer to the curb to avoid that slope that has developed on the back side of it. The annual budgeted amount is $100,000, and we use this budget to cover the cost of the construction of this contract, but also for reimbursement to property owners who decide to do their own replacement through permitting. Assuming positive action by the board, the timetable is in your memo, and we would anticipate based on that we would start construction early June on those sidewalks.
Second. Are there any questions for Max? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3, order for removal and replacement of sidewalks under contract 2104, sidewalk removal, repair, or installation at various locations.
Thank you again. This item is for order of sidewalk replacement. Again, we monitor sidewalk condition throughout the city, and in areas where we have to replace sidewalk, based on the municipal code, we share the cost with property owners, and part of this process, we first come to the board and council to order the sidewalk replacement through various contracts, and then either the property owner will replace it on their own through the permit, or if we replace it through contract, this order gives the city the possibility to bill back the property owner for half the cost of the sidewalk. So this first order is for sidewalks that we will remove and replace or repair under contract 2104, which is the contract that we just got permission to advertise a few minutes ago.
Second. Okay, any questions for Max on that? If none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Order number 4, order for removal and replacement of sidewalks under contract 2102, Maple Street reconstruction.
Thank you again. Similar to the previous item, this is an order for sidewalk removal and repair. This time is for contract 2102, Maple Street reconstruction.
Any motion? Second. Any questions for Max? All right, if none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, order for removal and replacement of sidewalks under contract 2105, Meyer Street reconstruction.
Thank you again. This order, similar to the 2 previous items, is for removal and replacement of sidewalk under the contract 2105, which is Meyer Street reconstruction, and we would recommend the board to approve this order.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any questions for Max? If there are none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Being no further business before the Board of Public Works, I adjourn.
All right, with that, I will call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee. We have 5 items on the agenda tonight. First up is the approval of the minutes for the Finance Committee regular meeting of March 15th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Second on the agenda for items for consideration is awarding the contract for the Fire Department operations, staffing, and facilities analysis. And Jay Shambo is going to speak with us about that.
Sure. Thank you, Megan. The fire RFP went out after review by this body a couple of months ago. We had anticipated bringing the recommendation to the last council meeting, but the fire RFP review team of Chief Kudek, Deputy Chief Beistel, Firefighter Inhofe, who Steve is here, Mayor Jenkins, and Alderman Berquist, and myself met. And as we were meeting, we decided that it was in our best interest to interview the finalists. So we received 6 proposals. I'll just talk through the proposal or the process with you. We received 6 proposals for the RFP response. That was really good response, 2 from Wisconsin and 4 from throughout the country. We did ask for the finances to be included in a separate document, so they were not influencing our decision, at least up front in the review process. That's a common process to go through when you're looking for requests for qualifications or proposals, that you don't want to be unduly influenced by the big number in the back of the book or the little number in the back of the book. So the group reviewed and had really good discussion with all 6 proposals. Then, we had a pretty close to top 3 list. Then we opened the financials, and that didn't sway our opinion of the top 3, I would say. So we interviewed, scheduled the time for all 3 proposers to Zoom with us, and again, the review team of 6 was able to meet with those 3 consultants. And the recommendation, which was attached in your packet tonight, is for McMahon. I would say there was consensus by the group to recommend McMahon. They're located in Wisconsin. The number that their proposal is not to exceed $38,450. The proposals ranged in prices from $33,000 to $73,000. So it was a fairly tight range, and there was a few of them in that lower 30s area. So I guess the cost of this is in line in the recommendation of the review committee. I don't know if there's anything else to add from that standpoint. You had a chance to review it. I can attempt to answer any questions. Certainly Mayor Jenkins can add. Alderman Berquist can add to the discussion. We had a spirited, lively discussion amongst ourselves as a review team, and again, enjoyed the opportunity to interview the top 3, and I would say pretty quickly came to consensus on the McMahon proposal that's before you. So timeline-wise, if you peeked at that in their document, they had a bit of a conflict between their timeline in their worded section of that compared to the actual timeline that was included in the back. They are committed to completing this project, assuming that everything goes well with the interviews and accessibility to individuals for interviews by the end of June. That's probably 30 days or so later than what we had originally anticipated, but we were also thinking about bringing this recommendation to you at the last meeting. So that's the recommendation of the proposal team.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion?
Yes.
Alderman Dolnick?
I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering, it's been a while since this issue with the fire department was spoken about, and some people may not be aware of why this is being done. Could you just give a little capsule explanation for that?
Sure. Chief Kudek made a presentation to council a few months ago. You're right, Alderman Dolek. It has been some time since he was in front of you all before the proposals went out. But the discussion of additional firemen has been in the works for several budget years, and Chief Kudek has made requests for additional firemen based on call numbers, call volume over the years, and we've not had the availability to fund those firemen that make that request. So I, as administrator, have cut those requests out of the budget proposal before they came to council in past years. Chief Kudek and I have been discussing the possibility of going through a full-blown analysis of the department for the last, 18 months or so, and committed to attempting to have this done in 2021 with the ideal of implementing in the 2022 budget year. So I think that's really the impetus. I'm not sure if you were looking for more than that, but they're doing a full-blown study of not just firefighter numbers, but practices, interfacility transport discussion, certainly facilities and location of facilities will be looked at as well. It's a full-blown analysis of our department's current operations. I give Chief Kudek a lot of credit for being willing to allow that to occur within his department. That can certainly make you uncomfortable. If you've read the proposal, they're looking to interview a broad array of individuals touched, including you folks as aldermen, as part of this process.
And I would just add that I think the spark was that they hadn't increased their staffing level in 20 years.
It's been some time since we
Yeah.
added firemen. Yep, and the numbers have certainly gone up. Yep.
Thank you.
Alderman Allen?
Yeah, we have this brought to us without the actual dollars. It's 38,000 roughly. What were the three finalists? If we just look at their bids, where does the one you want to award it to fall, and what is the range of those three bids?
We interviewed DKMT at $33,550. We interviewed McMahon at $38,450. And we interviewed Matrix at $48,500.
And those were your top three?
Correct.
It's going to come up, so can you justify awarding the 38,000 over the 33,000?
I can speak to it, Alderman Berquist or Mayor, if you guys want to take it first.
Brett's looking at me. Well, even before we got the numbers, I think that was probably our top pick at the time. And so we're very thankful that we did that interview process, because that answered a lot of questions for us about their qualifications and what we actually wanted them to look into. So between the two, absolutely, I would go with the one that's recommended over the lowest bidder. Yep. It's worth the extra 4,000 or whatever it is. Yep.
10%.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I ask, is that is a fairly big chunk, and some of the reason for that is, will the guy at 33 really be able to deliver it? Is 38 a reasonable number? So I want to make sure this came to us for action, an award, and no mention of the money until questions, so.
Yep. Ian?
So from a legal standpoint as well, because this is services, we don't have to, it's not like public construction where we're, somewhat bound to accept the low bidder, the lowest qualified bidder. We can, if the recommendation was for the 75,000, that would be perfectly acceptable, given that it's a service contract as well.
Okay, thank you. I
Any,
have no further questions, thank you.
anyone else with further questions? All right. Do I have a motion?
You had a motion
Oh, I'm
and a
sorry.
second.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, that carries. Next on our list is a resolution authorizing the appropriation of funds for the Carl Cuss demolition expense, and Mike Yench is going to talk to us about that.
All right, sounds good. Good evening. As you know, recently our staff conducted the demolition of Carl Cuss Field in Regner Park. During this process, we were able to recycle the old fencing and some of the scrap metal from the different facilities, the grandstand, the fencing, the light poles, etc. We are requesting that the $1,687.50 from the recycling be deposited or transferred into our operating account, public areas. This will offset the cost of the demolition and restoration of this project. Both of those, the demolition obviously in-house, also we are responsible for doing the restoration for this project. Thank you.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions for Mike on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Next is the resolution for outdoor recreational aids at Ridge Run All Abilities Playground with Mike.
Thanks. We are requesting approval for a resolution for a Department of Natural Resources grant to support the development of the All Abilities Playground. The final grant request, the final grant request will be $600,000. This is half the estimated project cost. Currently, we are working on final design for the all-inclusive All Abilities Playground that will be located in Ridge Run Park. If we do receive the grant funding, we do have 3 years to execute the project. So with this resolution and the next resolution that will come before you this evening, if the council gives us approval this evening, it is part of the grant process. We will continue with the grant process. If we're fortunate enough that we do receive the $600,000, we still have the opportunity or the option of not accepting it. But this is just part of the process for us to start the fundraising process. We don't want to wait another budget cycle, another year, things like that. We need to start this process. Well, Cindy started the process a month ago with the grant application. The resolution goes into it. We wouldn't find out till later this year. Funding's not available until 2022. So it's just kind of a long calendar for these grants and the resolution and everything else. So if we do receive approval tonight, that means we are going to move forward with the grant application. Again, if we are fortunate enough to receive these $600,000 in the future, that would also come back before the commission. Again, funding for this project, we are looking at possibly some park impact fees, donations, maybe this grant, some other grants. We're looking at some other grant opportunities. So that's kind of where we're at with this resolution this evening.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any, Alderman Bushlick has a question?
Mike, what is the interest that you would like to do out at Ridge Run? What improvements are you looking at?
Well, this would be the all-inclusive playground that we're looking at developing out at Ridge Run. Myself, Alderman Kennedy, and our committee and our staff, we've been working with Play by Design, our company for designing this. It would be the $1.6 million that we're discussing is the development of just that all-inclusive playground. Really doesn't have anything, or that would not, we would, change some things with the parking lot and drop off and things like that to facilitate, ADA compliant for vans, larger vehicles, larger capacity vehicles for people of different abilities. And when we talk about the all-inclusive, it's a playground system that we don't have in this county. It's certainly not in West Bend. And it can help provide an experience for everyone of exactly that, all abilities, John.
That's great. That's good to hear. Thanks, Mike.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions? I just want to echo what Mike said. A lot of this is being done through grants, fundraising, park impact fees. This is being done a great public and private partnership for sure.
Yes.
Alderman Model?
I assume we're not anticipating a user fee for these.
No.
No.
County Parks fee? Okay.
I don't think Parks and
I didn't
Rec
think
has
so.
ever
I just-
discussed anything
No,
like that at the city.
that is not the direction of our department or the volunteers. It's in some of the surrounding communities, we do have some all-inclusive playgrounds that some of our volunteers go to, spend their time in those other communities, things like that, and they want to bring one of those experiences here to West Bend.
Good.
Yeah, no, unless there's some new fundraising idea for a day or something or whatever, no, we do not intend on charging an admission to this facility.
Good.
Hopefully
Just making
ever.
sure.
Any other questions? All right, we had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And then the last item for consideration is the resolution for outdoor recreation aid for Regner Beach House renovation with Mike.
Thank you. Again, this request this evening for this resolution kind of mirrors the resolution we just discussed. It's a 50% match from the city or donations. Again, we have 3 years to utilize the money. Again, if we are fortunate enough, this discussion item would come back to to this council. So this evening, we are requesting approval for a second resolution, Department of Natural Resources grant to support the development of the Regner Park Beach House and new parking lot. The final grant request is, the final grant request is $240,000. The project itself for the beach house, we haven't gone out for bid, we don't have firm numbers, but we're looking at about the $1.4 million, $1.5 million for the beach house renovation. The beach house, as we know, is the final large project in Regner Park, Carl, because we have that one rolling right now. Again, we need to start the fundraising process for the beach house today. This process could take several years to develop, fundraising several years to develop. So again, if we receive permission this evening for the resolution, if we are fortunate enough to receive the $240,000 grant, that discussion will come back to the council at a future date. With the beach house project, the entire project is not eligible for a DNR grant. That's why we are not asking for $600,000, $700,000. We're asking for $240,000 because only certain amenities within the project would be eligible for the grant, such as ADA compliant restrooms that are available to the outside. Right now, you have to go into the building to use a restroom. They're only open when the building's open. We would have restrooms available to the outside all the time. Open air pavilion on the south end of the building would also be part of this. The parking lot would be part of this grant process. So the entire project is not eligible for grant funding, only small portions of the project, or $240,000 worth of the project. So this evening, again, we are requesting for the approval of the resolution to support this grant application for the Regner Park Beach House.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions for Mike? All right, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. With no further business before the Finance Committee, I will adjourn this meeting.
And good evening again. I'll call to order the City of West Bend Common Council meeting for April 5th at 6:30 p.m. Note that all aldermen are present and accounted for. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I'll note that we have 25 items on the agenda, with the first being approval of the minutes, the Common Council regular meeting minutes for March 15th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Alan and Model. Any discussion or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And presentations, National Telecommunicators Week proclamation. And I'll look for a motion on that.
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you, Berquist and Allen. All those in favor of the proclamation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And I'll read this proclamation for us. It reads, whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas by monitoring police and fire activities by radio and providing them with vital information, public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters, ensuring their safety. And whereas the work of these unseen first responders is invaluable and should be applauded and held in the highest regard all through the year, for without their commitment, devotion, and hard work, countless number of lives and property would be in jeopardy. Now, therefore, I, Christoph E. Jenkins, Mayor of the great city of West Bend, do hereby proclaim the week of April 11th through 17th, 2021, as National Telecommunicators Week, and I encourage all citizens to recognize and honor men and women whose service and dedication keep our community and citizens safe. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you to all those guys. And I'll look for a motion to consent the agenda consisting of items 2 through 12.
Are we gonna?
Second.
What's that? I'm sorry. Did I skip something?
Is that including his?
The two items that
Not
are,
in there? Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
yep. So I think I had a motion. Kaler, is there a second?
Second.
I had it.
All right.
I thought we had a motion and a second.
All right. We do have a motion second to consent the agenda, only consisting of the items that are right there in front of you. If there's no discussion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And we'll move on to our closed session item number 13. Entertain a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to state statute section 19.85 par 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. And this is in regards to a developer's agreement.
Motion to approve, or motion to adjourn into closed session.
Thank you. Second, Allen and Muddle. And Steph, if I could have a roll call vote.
Alderman Butchlick.
Aye.
Alderman Allen.
Aye.
Alderman Berquist.
Aye.
Alderman Kaler. Alderman Dolnick. Alderman Model.
Aye.
Alderman Kennedy.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We are in closed session. We are going to adjourn upstairs, and we'll come back to see you guys in a little bit. Thanks.
They have a copy in their packet? Yes. All right. I didn't know if it was public if you wanted. Okay, all right.
All right, we'll reconvene into open session, and we'll take up items 14, 15, and 16. They all kind of go hand in hand. 14 is a resolution approving an amendment to the project plan and boundaries of tax incremental district number 10, City of West Bend, Wisconsin. Number 15 is a resolution creating tax incremental district number 15, approving its project plan and establishing its boundaries in the City of West Bend, Wisconsin. And finally is 16, which is the HKS Developers Agreement. We're going to start off with a brief presentation by Phil Cosson from Ellers. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Phil Cosson with Ellers. Nice to be with you. I'm going to start with TID number 10 because they do connect 10 and 15. So we're going to be looking to amend TID number 10 as part of this process. Just a little bit background on tax increment district number 10. If you have the project plan in front of you on page 3, we have an executive summary. I'm just going to walk through that executive summary and then maybe take questions if you have any on TID number 10. So, TID 10 was created back in 2004 as a blight district, 49.5 acre site. The old West Bend Company site, if you know where I'm talking, River Shores development is in that area. It was really created at that time to help with the elimination of blight, help with the city's tax base through redevelopment and growth in that area. TID 10 was amended first time in November, on November 12th, 2012, as a distressed TID to allow for additional 10 years of revenue collection. And at that time, it was a projected shortfall in that tax increment district. I'll give an update in a little bit. This time, this is a very simple amendment. What we're looking to do is to remove some parcels that are on the very south and west portion of TID number 10 to be able to be incorporated into TID number 15, which will be a part of the development area that's being proposed by HKS for their development. So we're removing parcels in this tax increment district. There's a list of those parcels which are being subtracted on page number 12 of the project plan. You can see there are 4 parcels. 2 parcels owned by the city of West Bend, one by We Energies. All 3 of those obviously have no value associated with them. And then the West Bend Brewery building has a value of $182,000 that will be removed from tax increment district number 10. Again, the goal here is to remove those parcels so that they can be attached to tax increment district 15 as part of the proposed development by HKS. We have done an extensive analysis of the cash flow for TID 10. This amendment will not impact the cash flow of TID 10 at all. And we had discussions with Hendricks Development Group. As part of this, they are a partner with the city on that development. When we had proposed the distressing, I mentioned that we could add 10 additional years. We had identified at that point that it was going to take the full 10 additional years to be able to close that district out. Right now, the latest amendment through this and part of the analysis we did, that we're looking to be able to close the district 8 years earlier than that 10-year allowed. So it was originally a 27-year TIF. Right now we're showing it would close out in 29 years. With a little more development out there, we expect the district may be able to close out in its original 27-year life. We put the distressing in place for that district as kind of a safeguard, but we have seen development out there, which certainly has helped. This also, as a tax increment district, just as a reminder, has a strong development agreement with Hendricks Development Group, where if there's any annual shortfalls, they make those up. They've been very good about making up those shortfall payments, so they have not hit the city's levy, and then they'll get reimbursed back over time. So all of that cash flow is shown, the cash flows are shown in this project plan. But again, keeping it relatively high level, relatively simple amendment, just subtracting those 4 parcels so they can be attached to TID 15. So Mayor, those are the comments I would have on TID number 10.
Sounds good. So then we'll take up a motion for...
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Model and Alan. Any questions or discussions for Phil? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. That carries. You want to go to 15?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
I'll spend quite a bit more time on TID 15 since there's been a lot of discussion about tax increment 15. I'm going to start with some initial comments and then I'll jump into the project plan. I'll start by saying that really this is a continuation of a lot of the city's efforts over the last couple of decades to redevelop the downtown area. This is adjacent to TID number 10, the River Shores development just north of downtown. This development will provide really good connectivity with those areas, generate additional development, hopefully in that area and surrounding area, and also support greatly the downtown businesses. Second, the city staff, working collectively with our firm and the development team, have put together what we think is a really secure development agreement, and that's depicted in this TID project plan as well. I'll talk about that in a little more detail in a little bit. And then finally, the development group has been very good about sharing their pro forma with us. We've done a secondary kind of pro forma review to make sure that the developers are not being unduly enriched, which is part of the but-for test requirements under tax increment law. So not only have we done the analysis within the TID plan, but we've done an additional analysis on their pro forma to make sure that their returns are within industry standards. And we've come to that conclusion. So let's talk a little bit about the project. There are roughly, if you go into, again, the executive summary that's identified on page 3 of the project plan, this is a 7.6 acre site. which also will include the parcels that were just being subtracted from TID number 10. It's relatively condensed site. If you think about the level of development on 7.6 acres that's being proposed here, over $35 million of development, it's a pretty dense development. We would expect, as the project plan is written right now, to have the city spend up to $9.7 million in this area. I'll get into what that looks like in more detail in a little bit. Not all that money is being borrowed. That's not how this has been structured, and I'll talk about the structure in a little bit. The $9.7 million of potential expenditures are just that. This is a project plan. It's not a budget. It's not required that you go through and spend dollars in this tax increment district up to that dollar amount. What this allows for is the costs that would have been identified in the project plan to be paid out of the TID fund. This is a financing mechanism that's being put in place. The development agreement, which you'll be talking about after this, really dictates the conditions a great deal, and we'll talk about that again in a little bit. As I indicated in the incremental valuation numbers, we're looking at $35+ million of development on this site. And initial analysis, it'll take 23 of the 27 years to fully pay back the tax increment district. We have spent quite a bit of time again talking about the structure of the deal, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the structure because I think that is very important. There's, I know, been issues raised regarding the security around this development, making sure that the city is protected. And that is really being accomplished through the structure of the development agreement. So as I indicated, there are up to $9.7 million in capital expenditures or costs that are TID eligible. That's on page 22 of the project plan. And they really come in three buckets, and I'm going to talk about each one of those buckets because they relate to the structure of the deal. The first are two components, $1 million incentive that's a reimbursement back to the developer for cleanup of the site that, no matter who the developer is, has to be done. Relocation of We Energy site development, and there's a roughly $3 million of costs associated with the cleanup of that site to make it shovel-ready for development to occur. So the city, to expedite this, has asked the developer to undertake that expenditure and then be reimbursed back once the site has been cleaned up and ready for development. So that's the first $1 million. It's a reimbursement back to the developer for a portion of their cost to develop on that site. The second piece of that first bucket is a $500,000 cost for the Riverwalk North, which will be on city property. It'll benefit not just this property, but the overall area, connectivity with the downtown ultimately. And it's been a project I know the city's wanting to undertake for quite some time. So that first $1.5 million in project costs would actually be monies that, if this is approved, would be borrowed. And ultimately, the city would be paying back with increment coming from their development. The second bucket is the Riverwalk South, which has been estimated to be about $2.2 million. Now that pays for a number of things, including tunneling under Highway 33 to get to the downtown to provide that connectivity. There's no requirement of what that ultimately looks like as far as amenities, but there is a commitment from the city that that piece of it will at least be done. And then another piece being the Main Street, a portion of the Main Street improvements. Both of those projects are really beneficial to not just the developer for marketability of their project, connectivity to downtown, but also benefits all the downtown businesses as well. That's not proposed until 2023. or sometime after that. By then, the city will know what the development value is, because HCAS has identified that by the end of '23, they'll be fully built out on their project. That's important, because we'll be able to analyze the cash flow of the tax increment district and determine where the valuation came in before the city would ever consider taking on those projects. This does not circumvent the normal city process for financing projects. This is a funding mechanism. It's not a requirement that you fund these projects. So you'll still have to go to your capital planning in your budget. You'll have to still approve it like you do any other capital expenditure. So that's the second bucket. It's those public improvements, Riverwalk South and Main Street improvements. The third bucket is an MRO. A lot of confusion around because you hear different terms. You hear pay-as-you-go, you hear MRO, which is municipal revenue obligation. They're really the same thing. And what that is a contractual agreement that runs between the developer and the city, and in this case says, after our obligations are first paid, the remaining increment will go back to the developer, up to $4,425,000. Now, they get paid last, and that's really the key to this structure of this development agreement, is that the city costs that would be borrowed money will be paid first out of the revenue being generated from their development. What gets paid last, in this case, is that MRO payment that will be due to them on an annual basis. So in the development agreement, again, we'll talk about that in more detail later, we want to make sure that there's a minimum value guarantee from the developer that says it'll generate X number of dollars that is sufficient to be able to pay back the obligations that the city, those first two buckets that I talked about. That's really the key to this. The key is security is that if they underperform or the valuation comes in less, that they're the ones that are at risk. The developers are at risk. The city will be fully paid back from the increment that will be generated. And if they underperform again, they're the ones that will be hurt. So we have a development schedule in here on page 24. We talked about it a little bit earlier. This development agreement and the TID process has slid a little bit because of the We Energy issues. And so they fully expect to be fully built by '23. The numbers may change slightly in the development agreement from what we show here. As always, we try to be relatively conservative when it comes to revenue projections. So we're showing increment from their development and only their development. There is land to the north that could be redeveloped. We're not counting any additional development. We're not showing any increase in taxes. We're showing a flat tax rate of $18.31, which is the current equalized value of the city. And we're showing a 0.5% appreciation factor of their development as the revenue that comes into the tax increment district. One of the points of confusion that we have seen is this MRO and what is being paid to them over time. Again, they're getting paid last on this deal. What the payment calls for is up to that $4,425,000 at their borrowing cost, which is 4.25%. So that revenue stream that you see under MRO, if you do a net present value of that revenue stream at 4.25%, it ties back to the $4,425,000 number. If the value is higher, they'll get paid back quicker. The city will get paid back quicker, and the district will close out earlier. If we see other development occur, the same would happen. If we see values come in less, the city will still get paid back for the public improvements. Their repayment schedule will lengthen out, or they will not get fully paid back. That's how this is structured. So with that, that's the key items I wanted to address within the project plan. Accomplishes a lot of the goals that city staff has had for a long time, the continued redevelopment of downtown, generating additional tax base in the downtown, additional foot traffic for the businesses downtown, and then that connectivity between north and south on the Riverwalk, which will kind of connect the north side and south side as well. So I think a good project from what the vision that the city staff has had for that area.
Thank you, Phil. And with that, I'll take up item number 15, a resolution creating tax incremental district number 15, approving its project plan and establishing its boundaries, City of West Bend, Wisconsin.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Alan and Model. Any comments or questions on that? Alderman Dolnick.
So just to review, the current value of the brewery and the land, that parcel is worth $182,105, if my math is correct. The land value plus the building value. And it will be replaced by a structure that's conservatively estimated to be worth $35 million.
That's correct.
Okay. The MRO is the only, number two, the only money that we are going to borrow is for the public improvements of the city Riverwalk, the Riverwalk going under the street, and improvements to Main Street, plus 1/3 of the cost to clean up this site. But we are not borrowing any money to build this, so we're not borrowing this 9.5 or 10 million that has been mentioned.
No, that's correct.
And the third point I wanted to review is, and this is the most confusing thing, is that the MRO is not being paid for by borrowing. It is being paid for out of the tax being paid on the property.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All 3 points are correct.
Thank you.
Could I jump in? Just to be clear, Alderman Dolnick, the values that you quoted, I'm not exactly sure what page you're on, but the entire assessed value of the properties for the brewery project added all together are $770,000. I think you quoted one something. It's maybe.
I got that off of the.
Yeah, if you go to page 11 and look at the entire tax increment district area, the base value number is so small I can't see it myself. I think it's about 1.7 million.
So that's the entire district. The properties for the brewery project are $770,000. Still far short of the 30 million you mentioned. I just wanted to
I
be clear.
appreciate that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's still pretty good.
Yeah, the base
Exactly.
value, just so everybody's clear also, that base value, what's there today, still gets distributed to all the taxing bodies. School, county, technical college, and the city all get their piece of that. And then anything above that is what we're using to pay for those public infrastructure, Riverwalk projects, the cleanup of the site, and the MRO over time.
Nobody's losing anything.
From a tax base standpoint, or?
Yes.
Correct. What's there now, the other taxing bodies will still get what's there today.
Right.
Correct.
Any other comments, questions on this specific item? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to be opposed. I just want to say I'm really excited for this project. It's beautiful. I think it's going to bring something great to the city. My no vote tonight is really just on the belief that knowing we have 4 potential new board members that could be on this board tomorrow or being elected. So that is why I am voting no. I just want to make that clear. It's not because I don't believe in the numbers or what you guys are doing. I just think it should be put before the new board. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Thanks. And we'll move on to 16, the developers agreement. If you have anything else to touch on that, Phil? If not.
I think I already kind of addressed a couple of the issues. The development agreement is pretty similar to what other agreements the city has struck when there's a developer involved. It calls for minimum value guarantee from the developer to make up any shortfall payments if there would be. Ian, do you want to weigh in?
So just speaking to the kind of the parts of the developers agreement that protect the city. So first off, there are completion dates specified in there. We have part of the project completed by the end of 2022, the other part of the project completed by the middle of 2023. We have valuation guarantees associated with that. We also have what's called a pilot payment, which is a payment in lieu of taxes that is specifically put in place to make sure that for the long-term life of the TID, that there's a payment based on a minimum valuation guarantee, which more than covers the debt service on the improvements that are set forth in the project plan. So again, even though we're not borrowing that second larger chunk until we know what the valuation of the project is, we still made sure we have that minimum valuation to protect us. Secondly, in the early years of the project, there's a specific provision that at the very least, even if they get delays, some unforeseen delay on one of the buildings, in the very least, starting in 2023, they're going to pay us sufficient funds to pay our debt service. The other piece of it is what Phil already touched on, which is the way this is structured is different than a lot of the other development agreements we've had. The vast majority of developers agreements with PAYGOs, you see something like a 60-40 split. And there may be a minimum valuation guarantee, but there's a 60-40 split in there. And it's expected that the city's going to pay their portion out of that 40%, 30%, whatever that portion of the city's funds are. This one is structured differently than those. This is structured so that literally we get paid on the front end, all of our debt payment and an additional administrative fee for audits and such gets paid on the front end. They get what's ever left. So if they're on the low end of that valuation, they get a lot less. If they blow it out of the water and they end up at $45 million, then great, they get paid back even faster. So the risk and reward is on them. We have multiple levels to ensure that we get paid back. And again, like Phil said, we're not borrowing for that PAYGO. Yes, we're borrowing for those upfront costs, which any developer is going to have to pay. That's that $1 million. And without that, nobody can develop that site. Like that's literally money that needs to go out no matter what to develop that site. Outside of that, the only thing they're going to get is a refund on that increment, the taxes they pay on the increment. So this is not taking any money out of anybody's pockets outside of that TID. It's just based on their increment. And the way the developer's agreement is written, it's limited to the increment from their development. So it doesn't include future developments. It's just their development on this parcel of property.
Thanks, Ian. Is there any other questions on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Alan and Model. And I just want to take a few moments. I know that the mayor normally doesn't, I don't vote, but I am allowed to have some opinion. The culmination of this project, I mean, it's really been taking over, many months leading up to this time period. Yep, it might be new for many of us in the public who have been, recently informed about the project, but this has really been many months in the making. So as was stated, the development is estimated at $35 million, a $35 million development. For that size of a project in our city, we are truly blessed. We're truly blessed to have this project and HKS, their willingness to want to come to the heart of our city. So thank you guys for willing to do that. And to think about where that's located, we're taking an underutilized section of our city. I mean, the brewery has sat vacant for over 50 years. Please be rest assured, those in the public, that in our closed session meeting, for those of you guys who sat around with us, it was a long time. It was a good hour or so where, we asked a lot of tough questions. I think some of us came in with tougher questions than others, but, we ended up leaving that closed session feeling a heck of a lot comfortable with our ability to evaluate risk. And I'm confident in the structure of the developers agreement, which will be made public tonight, and how this helps to protect our city and our taxpayers. To review once again, the developer is going to receive a forgivable loan of $1 million to assist in the site work and relocating of utility infrastructure. The developer will also collect a PAYGO grant of up to $4.425 million plus interest over 27 years. And a PAYGO grant, you would assume, is pay as you go, is a reimbursed funds generated from increment collected throughout the life of this project. The developer will purchase the property and finance the project. It's on them. They have investors lined up as well. And we've built into the agreement a minimum assessed value of at least $25 million by 2023 and $27.5 million by 2026. And again, to Alderman Dolnick's point, that's compared to the $777,000 that it's currently worth now. In the end, the developers agreement will be made public tonight, and I hope that this answers many in the public's and our fellow stakeholders' questions. Our joint review board is set to take up this issue on April 15th, and I look forward to those discussions. The Plan Commission is going to take a first stab at reviewing the plans on Wednesday night, and then the borrowing that was mentioned, proposed for Main Street and Riverwalk, will be taken up at a future date by a future council. So I just want to let the public be assured that their mayor is in support of this project and the developers agreement, which we're approving tonight, and I look forward to working with HKS. So thank you, guys. We do have a motion second. I'll ask if there's any questions. Alderman Dolnick.
I just appreciate that, Mayor. That was an important message, and I just wanted to say that I was prepared to vote no on this tonight until the closed session. I had concerns about the financial positions for the city and the risks, but going through this in even more detail during the closed session satisfied the concerns that I had.
Thank you. I'll open up if there's any other comments, questions, concerns. Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the developers agreement, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. And thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. All right. And we'll move on to item number 17, which Alderman Butchlick is going to take up, as I will be abstaining.
Thank you. A resolution approving a certified survey map to create 2 lots, dedicate varying widths of street right-of-way for West Washington Street. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening. Pardon me. It's a relatively simple certified survey map. This is the former Mills Fleet Farm site on 18th and Washington. Quick Trip, the owner of the property, is redividing the parcel. This was approved by our Plan Commission. It's consistent with the site plan that's being constructed as we sit here. The only reason the land division is coming before this body is there are 2 small portions of right-of-way. They are existing right-of-way in the form of an easement right now. This actually dedicates them and gives us a little more rights to them. It's a small triangular piece right on the intersection, and it's a narrow corridor along the north edge. If you have no problem with it, we ask that you approve the CSM as presented tonight.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Alderman Allen? You make a motion?
You have a motion by Randy Kaler and second by Mark Allen.
Mr. Kaler
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
made the motion. I seconded.
All right. Any questions for Mark? There are none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, John. And we'll move on to item number 18, award contract for fire department operations, staffing, and facilities analysis. If there are any more questions, we'll take them, but a lot of those were answered in finance. So,
Motion to approve.
Second.
thank you, Otto and Alan. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to 19, a resolution approving deed restrictions for acquiring Riverwalk properties. Ian.
So this is a follow-up to the properties, the BMO Harris property and the Cryo Camp properties that we're acquiring through the DNR stewardship grant along the west or the east side of the west side of the Riverwalk. As part of that grant, there is a required deed restriction that basically says we're going to keep these as city properties, and that we can't change the use or sell them off without prior approval from the DNR, since they're giving us money for the acquisition. This obviously, we've already acquired the BMO property. We're getting close to acquiring the Cryo Camp property, so this is just kind of the final step in that process.
Second.
Thank you, Kaler and Alan. Any questions for Ian? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Number 20, original Class B combination license for 110 Wisconsin Street LLC, 110 Wisconsin. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. If you want to take item number 22 first.
Oh, yep. Thank you. We'll take up item 21 first. Original Class B combination license for Mavens on Main.
22.
22, I'm sorry. 22, adoption of stipulation suspension for Promotional Solutions LLC doing business as The Inferno. Chief, take it away.
Good evening. I had filed a complaint against the Inferno for a number of incidents, which was detailed in a report that I gave to the council a week or so ago. Actually, I believe it was March 26th is when that was filed. The intention was that we were going to have a hearing this evening. When that notice was filed on the owner, Mr. Hahn, Jeremy Hahn, called to meet with myself and the city's prosecuting attorney, Jonathan Woodard, who's also here tonight. Attorney Woodard and I met with Mr. Hahn and his brother who manages the Inferno, and after a rather lengthy discussion, we came to what we feel is a reasonable solution for now. And I say for now because if we continue to have problems, it was made very clear that the incidents that are cited in this complaint can be used against him for further actions if we continue to have problems there. So the resolution, or I'm sorry, the stipulated agreement was sent to you on Friday. It includes a 30-day suspension of his liquor license at that location, along with some stipulations, which are recommendations for when he reopens, or they are my recommendations for when he reopens, and they were stipulated to, and they will be followed by Mr. Hahn. Mr. Hahn is also here tonight if you would like to address him, but I would ask the council to approve this. I believe it's a reasonable resolution to this matter.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Allen and Model. Any questions for the chief or of Mr. Hahn? I'll start with Berquist.
Mr. Hahn, I'd like to commend you for being a businessman in the city of West Bend and for taking on the task that you have. I understand Inferno and some of your other establishments. I've patronized a couple of them and found it to be, at times, very good. Okay, I actually got a real good Thanksgiving dinner there that day. When I couldn't provide for my family, I got a good Thanksgiving dinner from you. The second part I'd like to state is the fact that based on the information provided, okay, being a good businessman is one thing, being a caretaker of the community is another, okay? When you sign on in the business that you're in, you take on a lot of responsibility. And that responsibility involved taking care of what happens in your establishments, okay? The list was pretty lengthy, okay? I've been in that situation, okay? I've been responding to calls like that in my past, okay? There is, I guess, to get to the bottom line, if I wasn't told of an agreement between you and the chief, I probably would have disapproved your request tonight and voted that way, okay? Given the resolution that you and the chief have worked out, and considering that you follow those agreements and toe the line that way, I will vote to approve this. So just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Thanks. Alderman Allen?
As I understand this, Chief, this in no way this isn't closing the Inferno down. It's only barring liquor sales.
That's
during
correct.
This 30-day period.
He can stay open for those. That's correct. He can stay open for those 30 days to serve food, but cannot sell any liquor. His liquor has to be secured, and he cannot sell any during these 30 days. His alcohol license is being suspended for 30 days.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Alderman Model.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I did, excuse me, I did talk to Mr. Hahn this morning, and he's got a great attitude about all this. I think he recognizes that there's been issues there, and he's already taken some of your suggestions to heart, Chief, and implemented some of those in his club, and they do seem to be working from what Mr. Hahn indicated. I do feel that these repercussions are warranted, and frankly, they could have been worse. And I think you're getting an opportunity here, and I believe per our conversation, he's going to take that opportunity. I appreciate also all you're doing in the community, Jeremy, and I hope this continues.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the stipulation of suspension, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And now we'll go to item number 20, an original Class B combination license for 110 Wisconsin Street LLC, 110 Wisconsin Street, 110 Wisconsin Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Model and Allen. Chief, do you have anything else on this one?
No, I think I mentioned at the license committee that the reason we did not send a recommendation up on this was because we were waiting to see what our resolution to Inferno was. Seeing that that's resolved, we have no objection to this license being approved.
Sounds good. Any other questions for Chief?
No, that was the question I was going to ask.
What's that?
That was the question I was going to ask. So.
Sounds good. Seeing none then, all those in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then item number 21, I believe we were going to table still?
That is my recommendation. I had some discussions with the state last week, and I need to follow up with that with the owner. So we have more information to get from the license holder there, and then I got to get back to the state. So I would ask that that be tabled for 2 weeks.
Okay. If I can have that motion.
Motion to table.
Second.
Give that one to Kaler and Model. Thank you. Any other questions for Chief? Seeing none, all those in favor, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and we're moving on finally to reports. Number 23, report by Alderman Kennedy regarding the Park and Rec Commission meeting. Take it away.
All right, so Parks and Rec hosted a great event this weekend at Regner. They had a community Easter egg hunt, so that was wonderful. The Parks and Rec Commission also approved a lot of great events in this meeting, an outdoor campout at Villa Park, a booster club event, Casa Guadalupe's Fiesta Latina, some Little League tournaments, American Cancer Relay for Life, youth football tailgate fundraiser, and a run benefiting the Community Scholarship Fund. So we have a lot of cool stuff on the horizon coming this summer. We also accepted 2 very generous donations from Bob's Main Street Towing, as well as Fox Brothers Piggly Wiggly. And we got some preliminary updates from our Parks and Rec staff on the Carl Cuss Field renovations, All Abilities Playground preliminary design, some Riverwalk, and also some recreational activities that are planned for this summer. So lots of great things happening. Thanks.
Nice, exciting stuff. Any questions for Megan? Then we'll move on to 24, report by Alderman Berquist regarding the library board meeting.
Thank you, sir. The last meeting of the library board was held here in the council chambers on March 16th. We approved the business of the board, the agenda, the expenditures, and financial reports. The meeting was open to public comments. Of course, there were none. The library director presented his report. He said the city audit was in progress and will be available to us the next meeting. Library staff is receiving COVID vaccinations through Washington County, which is a good thing. In mid-May, high school students will be displaying their projects throughout the library. The library is in the process of setting up a Friends of the Library group, which is good. Steve reported on self-checkout stations at the library and their plan for going forward. He explained that self-checkout will provide cross-training within the staff that he has, which will allow library assistants to help more people out on the floor. Some issues to address are the use of barcodes versus the new RFID devices, which are a little more expensive. Staff meetings are ongoing with the new director. They're down a couple of custodians, which is an important issue during the pandemic. They are investigating possibly using contractors to fulfill the shortfall. Circulation staff is also down, but that may be alleviated by staff coming back from leave. The library board president reported that bylaw updates are going to be ready for us to approve next month. Deb is also looking to introduce a program that she calls Library 101, which is information concerning library operations, which will be briefed to the board at board meetings. The Monarch Library System update. Well, they're now looking for a new director. We just approved, or they just got a new one, and I guess she didn't stay around too long, so they're looking for a new director. New business included approval of a laptop for the outreach department, as staff is now getting out and about in the community and visiting more and more facilities. The next meeting is scheduled for April 20th, right here in the council chambers. Anybody have any questions? No?
Guess
Thank
not.
you.
Thanks, Brett. So that is the end of our agenda. So we'll open up for announcements. The big announcement tomorrow is Election Day. Election Day, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Make sure you get out and vote. There's important elections, statewide ones like state superintendent. We got some judges. But most importantly, we have our aldermanic races here in the city of West Bend. So best of luck to all of those candidates. I look forward to working with whoever shakes out. Are there any other announcements for the good of the order? Seeing none, I will adjourn by the call of the chair. Have a great night.